Hi, I'm Carrie Gray, and I'm the host of Living Prevention TV, presented by the AlternaCare Foundation. Today, our topic is very timely and very important because we're talking about how to lower the body burden through home detoxification. And we have an exciting expert on this topic today. She's a dear friend. Her name is Marilyn Rogers. And Marilyn has a master's in education. She's a adjunct professor at the University of Phoenix, and she's a pioneer of the gentle childbirth water baby experiment, or excuse me, winning video water baby experiences. And she's also the founder of Safe Day events. So she's got a lot of great things that she comes with a background. And I'm just so thrilled to have you today with us, Marilyn. And I just want to say thank you for taking out time of your busy schedule and to volunteer to give this meaningful information. Because before we start, I just want to share with our audience that the world that we're living in today has, from the reports that I've read, there's about 80,000 petrochemicals that have been introduced into our environment since the Second World War. Now, as a young person, I used to see a commercial on TV that said, life was made better through chemistry. Well, today we have an ocean filled with plastics, and we have people who are very sick from all of the plastic pollutants and whatnot, estrogen disruptors, and all those kinds of things. So we really need to know how to be proactive and be able to start making new buying decisions in order to make an impact, a positive impact in our environment and in our bodies. So, Marilyn, thank you for joining us today. And I would love to hear what you have to share with us because I know it's going to be very insightful.
Thank you, Carrie. You have it down pat. And I just love the background you have. Every day we make choices. And it reminds me of a couple years back, well, actually a decade back, I used to have a business called Enjoy Making Conscientious Decisions. E equals MC squared. I kind of used Einstein's law. And I used to also say, make Earth made clean and cool because the object or the outcome of that was that the Earth would be a cool place to live without all the problems we have today.
Mhm.
And so I'm so happy to be here. I really believe that we make ourselves healthy through our conscious choices
Mhm.
in many ways. And wellness comes with, to me, four factors: environmental wellness. I mean, you could have all the wealth in the world, but you're living in a terrible environment, you're not going to be healthy.
Mhm.
There's financial wellness that always does, we have to be secure financially. We have to feel secure. And then we have to think about our personal wellness, which is, what we think about, how we approach the world, what our emotions are like, and then of course, what we eat, what we take into our bodies. And
Mhm.
so I think that's what you've been talking about. And from what I can see, it's providing people with those kind of alternatives.
That's right. And it's about being proactive, not reactive, which is what living prevention. And we have
Mhm.
a little group. I'll just mention it real quickly for anybody that wants to join us on Facebook. And I think you're even in the group, aren't you, Ron? It's called Prevention, Not
I am.
Prescription, right? And that's where we share a lot of really good information because we want people to know how to be empowered and educated and enlightened instead of feeling emasculated and confused, right? Because we don't make good buying decisions or even personal decisions when we're in that mental space. So please educate our audience. I love
Okay.
what you have to share because it's just it's so synchronistic with what we're about here. It just
Okay. I'm going to share with you a little PowerPoint I put together. Is that okay?
yeah, please do.
We can kind of talk about it. It's not very complicated. It's about having a healthy home, and
Mm,
you can let me know if you see it.
I do see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about our home, we talk about what's indoors, what's outdoors. Our whole entire earth is our home, and we can't avoid any of those things.
Very
So
good.
when I think about it, Yeah. We have to know we have to know this information. We should know a lot more than we know, but we're not going to get it unless we share it with each other. So we should know some important facts. I think that's where you're coming from. And then we have to make a commitment. What is our commitment? And then there's simple things that we could do. I wrote 4 steps down here, but I added one more in my mind. But there's a lot we can do, but we can't do everything unless we start somewhere. We have
That's
to
right.
start somewhere
That's right.
and then have an impact. We have an impact on our own home, our own bodies, each other. And so there's 4 areas of impact that I see. Four of them are water, energy, air, and waste. So what we're going to focus on today is water and air. Energy is a little harder for us to control, but if we started with water and air, we probably could have an impact on what kind of energy impact we have. And waste is hard too, harder for us individually to deal with, but we can start. So those are the, if you don't mind, right, and not being too, wanting to be too complicated and kind of being more, let's have fun with this, look at just a couple of them.
Okay.
That okay?
Yeah, sounds awesome.
And you mentioned it. The focus on water and air, for example, there's 500,000 tons of pollutants that enter the waterways each day. Just in the
Oh,
U.
that's awful.
Isn't that terrible?
That's terrible. Oh my goodness.
That's just in our country.
Oh
And
my.
what I've learned from just my research is that the water treatment facilities were not made to remove those pollutants. They're made to remove certain things, like
Right.
they'll kill like a bacteria or something.
Right. Like sewage, kind of like
Yes,
nasty stuff.
they
Well,
can't
that's a
remove.
very good point because this is why now in tap water, people are finding pharmaceuticals,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, and there people throw them down the drain. People throw everything down the drain.
Yes,
The
they do.
laundry we use, we wash our dishes in, pollutants, chemicals. We do so many things. Everything made, like, if you look at your home, if you bought a new carpet, if you bought a new piece of furniture, if you bought just a new blanket, you're going to have chemicals in them
Mm.
and they pollute your air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm
So
glad you brought this up because, I just want to interject this real quick. Fire retardant have estrogen disruptors. So if you want your boys to grow up to be boys, you don't want them to have estrogen receptors. And another one of those is dryer sheet. Another one of those big contaminants. So they smell good, but they mess up the testosterone balance of our young men. So more of these like hidden things that you just don't realize. When we make choices, we do it maybe bet on price or we're making a choice based on fragrance, but there's a real bite in that decision that we're not always aware of. So please protect your sons from all these chemicals, especially because it's very much a cause of all kinds of hormone disruptors, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You make a really good point because that was in the EPA, they studied chemical pollutants on how it affects fish. And they did find all these, especially sex hormone changes in the
Exactly.
fish.
Yeah.
And I have nothing against people claiming, that they have problems with that issue. But one time I did talk to someone in our community about that because I had a student that was a twin and he was very much into or feeling like a girl. And his parents were supporting it all and all that stuff. And many kids around that fifth grade level in this woman's experience were going through the same thing. They kind of felt that they were not men and they had feminine attributes to their characteristics. And she went to a Chinese doctor, gave them a tea, which adjusted their hormones rather, over a course of time. And all of them are married men with wives and kids now and everything. But not to say, people have their own choices. But if those kinds of things are really happening,
Right.
well,
They are a major contributing, a major contributor.
yeah,
And there's a lot more that we could go into that subject. But like say, besides the estrogen, testosterone hormone disruption, is the toxicity that they're also
yeah,
creating, right? So it's
yes,
not just one problem; it's a cascade of problems that it's really
very,
important that we hone in on this topic because it is a preventable topic that we have complete control over. Maybe not 100%, but we can definitely be more proactive in lowering toxin burden. And I think that's really what you're helping us to think about here. So please continue.
yeah. It's enormous. It's an enormous issue,
Yeah,
and we're only getting to the tip of the iceberg
right,
here.
right.
So here's a solution. One solution. So one solution. There's a couple of factors in here. You only use cleaning personal skin and makeup products that are free from chlorine, bleach, phosphates, ammonia, phthalates, formaldehyde, and other harsh chemicals. And the second one is use only as much as you need and be especially mindful of anything you put down the drain. So, we may not be, you know, using something on ourselves, but we wash it down the drain. Or we are using it on ourselves, but we think we're perfectly healthy.
Well, what's interesting about that topic right there, and I'm guilty of this because I used to handle a lot of chemicals many years ago, and before I had a health crisis. So many, many years ago, I was diagnosed terminal liver cancer, and that was one of the things that we isolated was that I had to change. And so I went to non-toxic everything because at that point, I'm young. I didn't have any awareness of the impact and, I don't wear gloves. There's no and inhalation protection, all that's, forget all that. You're young. You just don't think that there is a impact. Right. And so anyway, so when I was diagnosed, I had to start looking at everything. And so that was one of the first things that I did was to remove as many toxins as I could, lowering this burden. And anyways, and so one of the things though that I came to think about was that, there's only so much fresh water on this planet. And all of the water that is used is recycled, right? And so, when we're putting all this stuff down the drain, we're getting it back, right? I mean, like you said, like the treatment facilities aren't designed to remove 80,000 toxins from our water. So, there we go down to another slippery slope of conversation here. But I really appreciate your identifying just even these, cleaning, personal care, skin, and makeup. Because, if you read any of the research on those topics, what you'll see is that there are literally hundreds of chemicals people are putting on their skin daily, right? And the liver has to filter all of that. So, again, it's all going to create an impact. It may not be immediate, but it is definitely cumulative impact. And that's that's why it's important that we know this. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
all this. It's really helpful. Kind of getting
Yeah,
that
I remember
going
a
on your
woman
mind.
that I know, she did what you did. She cleaned up all her house from toxic chemicals and bought in a whole wellness pack of different things. And her husband put all of it in a box and put it in their bedroom closet. And then she came down with this huge attack, like asthma attack. She couldn't see, she couldn't breathe, her headaches, everything else, and then found out that he had put them in the closet. Now,
Oh,
you
so she was
think,
breathing the fumes, is what you're telling us.
yeah, yeah, the plastic containers that these things are in often outgas the chemicals. That's
That's
why when
right.
you go down the aisles of the store,
That's right. Right.
you'll actually smell them and their fragrances are there. And, you don't even want to go there. You don't want to go
Right.
there.
Yeah,
Those
I know
aisles.
my daughter, when she shops with me, we have the same conversation. She can't go down the aisle because of the off-gassing.
Yeah.
So, again, going back to all these invisible toxins that, if you're healthy, you may not have a reaction to, but people who are more fragile are kind of like the canaries in the coal mine, like then they have a reaction it needs to be a wake up call to the rest of us that just because we're not doesn't mean we're not being effective.
Yeah. Yeah. We could talk for miles and miles about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You have to focus on your family's health. And we talked about two of them that I talked about and you talked about already is topical exposure and inhalation exposure. There is a wide number, huge number of children that ingest these things and they're in the emergency rooms and they barely make it. Some of them die. Some of them have surgery after surgery
Wow.
to repair burned throats, esophagus, the whole bit.
Right.
And it goes into their stomachs, and you can't repair it. It's almost impossible. And
And
they,
so we as the parents, again, need to think about what we're bringing in our house, right? And detoxing our homes, detoxing our lives, and ultimately protecting these children that are so, again, like the canaries in the coal mine, they're so fragile. You're right. The Poison Control Center wouldn't even need to be a thing if people had more awareness of this topic.
yes,
That really is living prevention in kind of just like the most important way I can think of is protecting children, not just, protecting our environment, but protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That's why they need us to get informed to make better buying decisions and stop putting them in harm's way because I know yeah, and maybe you're old enough I know you're old enough to remember this like I am, that there used to be a commercial on TV, and it showed everything the parent did, the child did, and at the end of the commercial, it showed the dad smoking and the child picking up something and acting like he was smoking, and it was a anti-smoking commercial, right? But this is where when children see parents use those toxic substances, then later on they go and, pretend like they're mom or dad, and now that's where the danger happens. Oh, wow. Good point.
yeah.
Interference.
My friend, one of my best friends, she had 4 daughters. She raised them all conscientious. We've been friends for like 15 years. She never had bleach. She never had ammonia. She never had Clorox. She never had Ajax, any of those things. And they all grew up and got married and their husbands' families, they went into the houses, to just do their laundry or something, hang out with the kids. They had grandchildren by this time. And she looked around, she goes, "What is that?" And it was a big, jug of bleach and Ajax. She goes, "What are these things?" So she had never seen them before. So, she had to talk to her husband about it and they had to kind of go back to mom, my friend, and learn a little bit more about it. But yeah, it's going to take a while because we're watching TV commercials
Mhm.
and there's Mr. Clean and all those things that have made a lot of money by reinvesting their money in medical schools and pharmaceutical schools to support the side effects that you get. Did you know
Wow.
that?
Wow.
But that's where do we get all those medical schools and why do the medical people only have a certain expertise? Not to take that away from them. They do know how to like set a bone and
Mhm.
do with emergencies in ways that we wouldn't. But when you're talking about topical exposure, it's something that happens over years.
Mhm.
Could be starting with look at the lawsuits that have happened with uh, Johnson and Johnson's baby powder.
Oh, good point to illustrate this, right? Multi-billion dollar talc, and Johnson& Johnson has known this for decades, which is always the smoking gun in these litigations when these manufacturers know the product liability and they don't do anything about it, right? And so then you've got all this kind of damage, then that's where the lawsuits come from and the successful litigation of those lawsuits. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, so here we are. We're at the third point is inhalation exposure. It's if you just walk into a room with ammonia or Clorox, you can smell it and it's caustic. You start coughing and everything like that. Because we have like a lot of hidden um, products that
Mhm.
are just supposedly the best thing on some sliced bread. We're buying them like crazy. And EPA, there's focus air pollutants. The EPA is standardizing and making okay. We know these things are bad: carbon monoxide, ozone, particle matter, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, lead. We know those, so they accept those as being harmful. But now the EPA said the top environmental risk to public health is indoor air quality.
Mhm.
And then we're going back to that same point. Damage to our bodies occurs from inhaling fumes from products in our home. And
Mm.
it's like topical things too. It starts, and you can smoke cigarettes for 20 years and maybe then you'll die. But it's the same kind of lung damage. I'm just going to pull up this screen. 20-year independent study that was done in Europe. It says, and I'm just going to read right off of here. It says it's you that using national brand cleaning products as little as once per week is as bad for lungs as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Now that is
This-
crazy because, when we choose to live prevention, right, we know better than to smoke cigarettes, right?
yeah.
But when you're talking about being able to create the same amount of damage, this has really escalates this issue into one that, again, is not that hard, right? And I think you're going to be able to help us on some products that we could replace. Like, we need, sometimes we need more than just water to do cleaning with, but the point is that that right there, that's mind blowing that it could do that kind of damage with one time a week. I mean, most people don't clean just one time a week, you know?
Yes.
So,
This study, a lot of people would fight against this, obviously, right? But this was results compiled by 28 researchers from 9 countries, and they peer reviewed it and published it. And it's all over the World Wide Web. You can look it up. Just look up lung study, lung damage from cleaning products. There's 3-minute videos, there's 7-minute videos. I happen to have a 8-minute video that I could share that was put out by a company that I recommend.
okay.
I'm named Melaleuca.
Okay.
If you would like, we could put it on
I
now.
think that would be awesome. I think that'd be great. Let's see what you have.
Kind of outlines lines the study, and if anybody
Okay.
wants to have the actual, written journal article or the written study, then they can always provide their email address, and I'll forward it right over.
And why don't you give us your email address so that way if anybody wants to reach out, they can do that.
Okay. You could just send it to, and you could just send it to Maryland's with an S, Maryland's Green Store. Because
Marilyn.
I don't really sell anything, but I just call it a green store for lack of a better name. And at Gmail.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put it on now.
Okay.
In your home. It should be simple, a regular ritual. After all, keeping a clean home is an important part of good health. Cleanliness is next to godliness, the saying goes. So why would anyone consider cleaning your home dangerous? As dangerous as smoking? A pack a day, every day, for 20 years? Well, cleaning your home seems safe enough until you consider what many toxic national brand cleaning products are doing to your lungs. Today, independent scientists around the world are confirming what Melaleuca has known for decades. Cleaning your home as little as once a week with common national brand cleaners significantly damages lung tissue. This new independent study based on 20 years of research is shedding new light on a topic of extreme importance. Though researchers have known for a long time that certain cleaners can trigger asthma and other pulmonary problems, this new study was designed to learn how typical use of home cleaners are affecting the respiratory health of those who use them over an extended period of time. Starting in the 1990s, the Respiratory Health Survey started tracking a large population of 6,235 women and men with a beginning average age of 34 at 22 health centers around the world. Over the 20-year longitudinal study, participants were questioned about their use of both spray and liquid home cleaning products and had their lung capacity tested regularly. The results were compiled and analyzed by a top team of 28 researchers from 9 countries, led by scientists at the University of Bergen in Norway. In March 2018, the study was published in the peer-reviewed American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine, and it generated global media attention. The study points to 7 primary findings that everyone should pay special attention to. Finding 1. Using national brand cleaners as little as once per week is as damaging to lungs as smoking a pack of cigarettes every day for 20 years. By now, just about everyone knows the dangers of smoking cigarettes. Among their many hazards is depleted lung capacity, the result of damage to the tender internal tissues of the respiratory system. Shockingly, the study concluded that women who used home cleaning products as little as once per week saw the same reduction in lung capacity as those who smoked a pack a day over the same period. Finding 2. Women are affected far more than men. Though there was a clear link between women who used cleaners and respiratory decline, there was less correlation for men. This finding is particularly concerning, considering it is women who engage with cleaning products with the greatest frequency. Finding 3. Cleaning at home is just as harmful as being an occupational cleaner or those who clean for a living, if not more so. The study's survey categorized participants as not cleaning, cleaning at home, and occupational cleaning. Surprisingly, the cleaning at home group saw the same decreases in lung health as those who indicated occupational cleaning. Why? At home, few heed the strict usage guidelines found on most every national brand cleaning product. But shouldn't you be able to clean your home without protective gear and a ventilation mask? Is it your cleaning process that needs to change, or the products you're using? Finding 4. Liquid cleaners are just as dangerous as sprays. Study researchers originally suspected that products delivered through a spray would prove more dangerous than those applied as a liquid, gel, or wipe, but the study found no significant difference between cleaner delivery types. The implication is that the chemicals in liquid cleaners become just as available for inhalation through evaporation as those used in sprays. Finding 5. Though national brand cleaners use all kinds of dangerous, toxic chemicals, researchers mentioned ammonia, chlorine bleach, and quaternary disinfecting compounds as some of the primary culprits. In their conclusions, the researchers stated, one could hypothesize that long-term exposure to airway irritants such as ammonia and bleach used when cleaning at home could cause fibrotic or other interstitial changes in the lung tissue. In other words, scarring of the specialized tissues of the lungs, thereby leading to accelerated decline of FVC, or forced vital capacity, an important measure of lung capacity. Finding 6. Women who regularly use national brand cleaning products have increased rates of asthma. This finding echoes multiple recent studies that have clearly linked the use of dangerous cleaning agents with the onset of asthma. Finding 7. Damage to the lungs gets worse over time. When dangerous, toxic chemicals like ammonia, chlorine bleach, quaternary disinfectants, and any number of the other hazardous ingredients found in national brand cleaners are regularly inhaled into the sensitive tissues within the lungs, it only makes sense that respiratory problems would result. Exposure to cleaning chemicals, the researchers wrote, could result in accelerated lung function decline and chronic airway obstruction. Low-grade inflammation over many years could possibly lead to persistent damage to the airways. So what do the findings of the study mean to you? For most women familiar with these products, the conclusions of the study come as no surprise. The smell alone of these products indicates that they can't be healthy. Even unopened bottles in the cleaning aisle of the grocery store accost you with their powerful chemical odors. The truth is, you've suspected the findings of this study for years, but maybe you haven't known what to do about it. If you haven't already, rid your home of the national brand cleaners that contain dangerous chemicals. What kind of products should you avoid? Nearly all national brand cleaners, including disinfectants, kitchen cleaners, bathroom cleaners, toilet cleaners, shower and tub cleaners, scrubs, stain removers, floor cleaners, degreasers, window and glass cleaners, and other national brand all-purpose cleaners. For more than 3 decades, Melaleuca scientists have formulated cleaning products that perform household chores with unparalleled results, without the cheap, widely available, dangerous chemicals national brands are known to contain. Our EcoSense line has taken a firm stance on dangerous, toxic ingredients. We don't use them. We never have and never will. Instead, we use safer, more effective, biodegradable, plant-derived ingredients like the same citric acid found in lemons. We use thyme oil, surfactants from coconut and palm oil, enzymes like those found in nature, and 100% pure melaleuca oil. This is why our cleaning products are so safe that no child safety caps are required. And yet these formulas lack nothing in effectiveness. In fact, they are proven to outperform their chemical-laden competition, let alone the so-called green cleaners that rarely accomplish the task they were marketed to do. And it's why you can clean your home with confidence instead of holding your breath or losing your breath altogether. So tell the world, with EcoSense, cleaning your home doesn't have to be dangerous at all.
Yeah. So anyway, the idea of controlling our air toxicity amounts to a few things that I put on here. Like do a weekly, organize yourself and go out once a week. Now we're not going out very much, but how many times a week did you go out before? Drive in a car, pollute the air. I saw a documentary I want to mention, and it talked about gas cars. And it said that every mile that a gas car drives is like dropping a pound of the charcoal briquettes.
Hmm.
That's how much comes out of a car every mile. So they showed in this documentary like a mountain the size of Mount Everest every day because of the worldwide use of cars with gasoline.
Hmm. Which again, it's more in things that we're inhaling, right? More toxins that
Yeah.
we're taking in our body, which means that our body needs to be able to have good organs of elimination in order to not get stuck.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a lot of things that people have to do to keep their air quality clean in their house, which isn't our topic right now, but one of them is walking, biking, or carpooling. That's a good one.
Mhm.
And using concentrated products. Concentrated means products that don't ship water around.
Oh, so
You
they
might as well
switch
buy a
them.
$5 bottle of a concentrate and add your own water from the sink.
There you go.
Make sure that those ingredients are natural and and that the packaging is smaller. Like a lot of the big companies like to make you think that they're giving you a huge amount for the money.
Mhm.
But there's something people should do is, especially if you're using powders of any kind, take an, a serving of your laundry soap. If it's a powder, put it in a like a jar of water and put the lid on it and then just shake it and shake it and shake it and shake it. See if it ever dissolves. If it doesn't dissolve, it's probably filler.
Oh, interesting. Well, this goes way back to the 70s. Okay. So I'm dating myself here. But I remember being a kid and being at an Amway party, and they were showing in Amway how much of the soap, because back then everything was powder, there was no liquid, right? Anyways, how much of the soap was sand. And the way you knew how much of the sand was graining your clothes away was by what was in the lint filter. So, their sales pitch was basically that when you use, their natural products, their liquid products or whatever, that you would have way less lint. And that's how you knew
Well,
your
and
clothes were lasting long.
you know what laundry soaps use now?
What's that?
Microplastics.
Oh, yes, the
It's
microplastics, which is glad that you brought that up because that's another topic I've been hearing a lot about as far as that's what's in our food are these
Yeah,
microplastics,
and they
right?
put the microplastics in there just like with the same function and purpose that the sand
Oh, so
does.
instead of the
Like
sand,
with
now
the
it's
clothes,
plastic. Oh my.
the clothes. But
Oh
you
my.
don't need that in your laundry soap. If you
No.
have really good, like natural ingredients, it will
Right.
it will clean your laundry. You don't have to beat it out with a microplastic or some
Wow.
filler.
And again, more stuff that's going into the ocean, which is
Yeah.
why they're saying that the fish have all these plastics in them.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not realize. I'm glad you said that. I did not realize that they were using. I just assumed it's still. Well, I don't use liquid. I mean, I don't use powder. I've used liquid for many years, but the liquid too has the microplastic, or just the
It
powder.
could be. It could be. I think people are getting onto it and maybe they're changing that, but I don't know. I don't know. You have to look at your laundry soaps
Mm.
and find out.
Yeah, and that's a really small change. It could make a really big impact if millions of people were doing it, right? That's really
Yeah, it's like everybody uses laundry soaps and they don't think about it. And the companies that put out these things, they kind of blame sunscreen for the ocean's problem, but that's just their least profitable product. You know,
really,
and they're going to take that and they're going to blame it on that and say, "Yep, that's what's wrong."
really.
It's a
Wow.
financial problem. It's money.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I love
Good
that.
point.
Just
Well, I
love
have
those-
been. Well, you're in Hawaii, right?
yes.
Yeah. So I used to live there too. But I remember being in Mexico on vacation many years ago to a place that I absolutely fell in love with. And then I went back years later and it was closed because the reef was almost dead and it was, I mean, it was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And it was almost dead. And you could just see like it was like an oil slick on top of the water. Like
I
I was
know.
just like horrified by what I saw. And that's what, of
Oh,
course, they were blaming it on was the sunscreen.
oh, it was just on the news the other day. Someone was cleaning up an area, a beach,
Mhm.
and they picked up 80,000 tons of, I don't know how or bags. I think it was 80,000 bags. I'm not sure. It was just so much toxic trash, in the ocean at this beach. And you could clean it up. I think the EPA is being sued right now by the nature companies in Hawaii because we go out and clean the beach. We do ocean cleanups at least once a month, my own class of kids. And, you would go out there and clean it up. And then the next day, it's the same as it was.
Right. Well, and
The-
this is where the consumer, has to change buying decisions because nothing will change until people shift their spend. Because, a company is always aligned for the dollar, right? And so if we're as consumers making uneducated or undereducated buying decisions and buying these things that are contributing, then, it's kind of like chicken and egg. What came first and how do you stop it? Well, the way you stop it is stop buying it. That's the way you
yeah.
stop it. And you may not be able to change other people's buying decisions, but you can live by your own example, right?
Yeah, that's what I love the Margaret Mead's. I love to quote Margaret Mead on the same topic. She says, "Never doubt a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. And indeed, it's the only thing that ever
Yeah.
has."
I've had that for years also. I
I
love
love that
that
because
down
truly,
because change, my observation, change doesn't start from the top. Change always starts from the bottom. It's when the people are tired of the consequences, like the top, I'm referring to, government and agencies and, corporations that are profiting, blah, blah, blah. So, it's kind of like good old boy politics at that point, right? So they they don't see a problem, but yet people do. People like us, and there are many more like us that really care and that really want to make thoughtful buying decisions. So I'm really glad you're sharing this information today.
yeah, no, and we didn't mention it, but there are four simple steps. We didn't mention when you convert your home. That's the first one.
Oh,
You have to
that's
take
great.
out your alcohol, but you have to watch out because a lot of the companies, there were a lot of green companies that
Mhm.
formed
Mhm.
and they went public and they were bought out by some of the most toxic companies in the world.
Yeah.
And there's lists of them,
Yeah.
and we don't have to mention them now, but we can find the list if anybody's interested. Of
I
all,
do have to say again that I totally resonate with you on this topic because, like, for instance, I will do research to find something that I feel, based on all the other research I've done, is a better buying decision. Right. And then, I'm buying the product for a couple of years. And, like, for instance, Tom's toothpaste, that was one that I made that buying decision. When I found out about fluoride, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. I don't even remember, but a long time ago. Maybe more. I don't remember. But anyways, so I started looking for brands that I could buy that were non-toxic. And for years, I think I just used baking soda toothpaste or whatnot. But anyways, point is, then I find out like they get bought out, right? And for me personally, and I think a lot of people would feel this, is that the same company who's poisoning the planet is now, bought another, again, profitable product line so that, to people that are more conscious, well, they can get that demographic also. But for me, there seems to be a lack of integrity in that whole conversation. And so, one thing, you mentioned earlier about Melaleuca, and one thing that I've looked into them, and one thing that I really appreciated about them is that they don't seem to be for sale. And I thought that was a really important statement for the CEO to go on record as saying that he's even set up his company where it can't be sold. So when they like, if people, make that kind of a buying decision, then they don't have to worry about like later on, well, so what big company's going to buy them out, right? Like, they're pretty successful. So, anyway, so I appreciate that because that has been a real bone of contention for me is that I make thoughtful buying decisions and then the company gets bought out. And it's happened over and over and over. Right. So again, like that, I'm trying to look for companies that I feel are more in harmony with sustainability and it will keep true to that message that they put out there instead of, being lured by the big deep pockets that are really part of the problem that we're dealing with today.
Yes. Yeah. That's good, Carrie. So yeah, I know that we have to commit ourselves to something. We have to make a commitment. And a lot of times it's making a commitment on something really easy to do first,
Mhm.
because then the harder things later on will be easier. And so I think that it's really good when people make a commitment and purchase, say to themselves, I'm going to purchase biodegradable, non-toxic products as much as possible. And then I'm going to dispose of the hazardous products properly because you can't just throw them in the trash. You can't just throw
Hey,
them down.
no, I'm really glad you brought that up because, Marilyn, how would you recommend when people are transitioning from, the toxic products into like a biodegradable, right, environmentally friendly product that's, safe and natural and all those. So
You know, I,
how do
I
you respond
really don't. I
get rid of
don't really know what every city does, but in the island of Oahu, they have a special day where you could, and a place where you can bring cleaning products, paint, motor oil, like
Okay.
that. They have a day
Okay.
where you can
Okay.
dispose of it. I
Okay.
used to have the
Like a
advertising.
biohazard waste, they do have special ways of handling that. I mean, even in the medical facilities, they have the biohazards, right? And so it's probably that same thing. So that's a good point. Let's make sure that everybody gets that. Like, if you're going to
Yeah.
transition, please do, but then don't irresponsibly just throw it in the landfill. Make sure that it's handled. I think it goes into an incinerator, which obviously is now going in the air. So, I mean, it's just kind of like these ongoing problems. But
It's a
bottom line
problem.
is, as long as we stop buying the products, that is going to help contribute to lowering the toxins, lowering the body burden, and lowering the environmental impact that all these things collectively are making because billions of us are making the wrong decision. That's really what we're saying. Would that be a good summary?
Right. That's a great summary.
Okay.
And so then that's what I would say is that if anyone wants to watch an overview about alternative products,
Mhm.
things that we recommend,
Okay.
where they could effectively shop and have it delivered to their home and concentrates and all that stuff, they can keep in touch with you
Okay.
and we'll plan a time and they can schedule it with us.
Okay. That's
Oh,
awesome. So we're here to support people to make those better buying decisions, to make the educated choices. And I do think that that's a really good point where, because everything has so significantly shifted into the online buying experience. That's a really nice, I mean, that's a whole other thing. They're talking about all of the extra waste that's going in the packaging and the delivery service, blah, blah, blah. But again, if you did a bulk order, right? You do bulk purchases where I think you talked earlier about a home conversion pack or something.
yeah, you can convert your home in one fell swoop.
Right, and
And
that might be really ideal that way, again, lowering the environmental footprint, right? Not having so many deliveries, just have one big delivery. And okay, so that would be a
And
really
doing
good
it,
one.
shop once a month. Make a habit, not going and just narrow down your budget. You can do it, I think.
Right, right. Be more
Yeah.
organized, think ahead, shop ahead. Yeah. But but shop mindfully, right? That's what we're really talking about here is look for things because, one thing that I believe is that everything that in the toxic world that we're maybe have, the Mr. Clean and the Ajax and the Comment and all these other brands, Clorox, all of those has an equivalent in a natural, non-toxic world that, just really, again, just contributes to this overall living prevention lifestyle, mindset, being, culture, all these words, right? That we associate with just being, like, say, that mindful consumer, realizing that every decision that we make, we can make an impact, a positive impact. I used to say this all the time. I live on an island, but no one is an island, right? So we all are making a cumulative impact, one person at a time, right? So one person at a time, let's look at ourselves and let's figure out how we can start making better buying decisions, improving our health, improving our well-being, and protecting our children and our environment. All of those, the animals, the children, and the earth, they have no decision in all of this. We're the ones who are totally steering this ship. So let's do a better job.
Thank you so much, Carrie,
Thank
for
you.
putting this together. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you, honey. Well, I appreciate your time. This was a great presentation, and it really is the topic that, I mean, here we are, like, everybody knows about COVID, right? Here we are in this COVID era. And what's the big issue, which is health, right? And lungs, right? And so here we've been talking about like the inhalants, and obviously toxins lower your body's ability to have the proper immune response. So these are again going back to, it's like the full circle. It's always connected. And that's why it's so important to make really informed, educated buying decisions and just look for the natural ways of accomplishing and doing so much more with so much less. I think that's our takeaway. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Marilyn. I appreciate it. Aloha.
Aloha.
You have a wonderful day.
Too.
And I look forward to seeing you again because I know that there are more things that we're going to talk about later. So we'll have you back as a guest on the show and talk about some of your other awesome topics that you're so knowledgeable in. And so thank you again for that.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Yes. And so thank you. You have a good day. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So, today, as we conclude our show, I just want to say thank you for being our guest. And I hope that this information will help you to feel inspired to make some different thoughtful decisions. And please join us at AlternaCare.org and see what we're doing there to lead this living prevention movement and helping people help themselves because prevention beats cure. Please also see us at Prevention, Not Prescription on Facebook and join our free Facebook community where we share meaningful, thoughtful, health based information to help you know how to make the best decision. Thank you. Bye bye.